Board members, are we ready?
Yes, sir.
We are. Okay, let's call to order the 935th meeting of the Board of Directors of the Alexandria Sanitation Authority, now known as AlexRenew. We'll take a look at the agenda and we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as it appears.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
In favor?
Hi.
Are there members of the public online?
We don't introduce the public to become Mr. Mulberry and Ms. Blake from Rap House.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's take a quick look at the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the 18th of November.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor? Before we jump into any other items, Carl, introductions you like to make?
Yeah, maybe before we get started, you'll notice there's mics in front of you. They're meant to pick up your voice without having you lean in to talk to a regular microphone. So if you, Mr. Bill, if you want to put it like maybe by your name tag, it should pick up your voice. But if you, when you're talking to if you turn your head like this, or if you're whispering to the person next to you, it probably won't pick you up as well. So just be cognizant of it tonight. We've got the mics. We're trying something new with them. In the past, we used to have to turn them on and off, and that didn't really work for anyone. So we've tested this out over the past week. And, you know, I could hear Mr. Hill's voice much more audibly. So we'll give it a try. If not, we'll bring out the mics with the little extender on them. There's too much background noise, but we'll see how it goes. Just a heads up. Maybe introductions. Where did Ron go? Oh, he snuck out. Ron Flowers, one of our IT techs, is here tonight supporting us.
Yeah, he does a great job keeping us online all the time.
And you know, Mr. Pylon and Mr. Argentina.
Let's jump right into the administrative items. Mr. Carl, anything to bring to our attention on the board calendar? Attitude?
Maybe before we get to green folders. There's a bunch of stuff in the green folder. We did send out the board sheet agenda in advance, but this is a draft agenda. Thank you, Dr. Wong, for coordinating with some of your staff at DC Water to help us out this year. Additionally, in there is a draft of our annual report called Future Forward. Just want to direct the board's attention to the introduction on the inside. We took a stab at it as staff. If the board wants to go through and read the first introductory letter, or if there's any edits that you have to the document for the annual report, please let us know. If you want to mark up a hard copy, that's fine. Or if you want to email comments over to me, if we could get them like Tuesday next week, that'd be appreciated. First of the year.
Wow.
If there's a picture you don't like of yourself in there, let us know. We'll take it out. We still have some edits that we're doing, especially with some of the captions on the pictures. So you'll see those get updated, but for the most part, it's 95% there.
So, very good.
And then also in your green folder is a copy of the single audit. I think Mr. Jinks and Dr. Wong, we just put it in your folder just so you had it from Finance and Audit Committee. So that YHB is going to submit it this week to the clearinghouse. You also have a copy of the ACFR on that. And then we had revisions which I sent out on Friday for the communications plan. That revised deck is in your green folder as well. So as Mr. Robertson talks this evening, that's the current version we'll be talking about.
Having the board calendar.
It's been the retreat added. Thank you, Mr. Beal, on the board calendar. All the COG dates for the Chesapeake Bay Committee are on there now. Coming up, things we need to schedule, the governance committee meeting, as well as a finance and audit committee meeting. We'll have to get that on the calendar, but we'll wait till the new year to do that. We can talk about that at the January board meeting. But just those two things have been added to the board calendar.
Thank you. Questions on the calendar? You good? Moving right into finance and audit. Jenks, any updates?
Nothing new to report. Like you said, we've got our ACFR, we've got our annual report, and also missing is an autograph. I'll give that after the meeting. Appreciate it. Congratulations on getting work done. And now that that's done, on to the next part of the fiscal cycle, which will be the budget and rate setting, which will get kicked off in formally, publicly in March.
Is this a record time for the actor? Seems early. No. Good.
You mean printed or just
Printed,
probably?
yeah, printed and
I would-
bound.
Yeah, I would say that's correct. It's usually after the new year.
It is.
Yeah.
Governance committee, anything to reveal? Nothing. The board retreat, I think we've already talked about. Any additions to that?
It's going to be a presentation from staff. Also a talk from DC Water talking about their experience in operating the Anacostia River projects for the last 7 years. Any lessons learned that we could take into account, or you might want to know as a board. And then we're going to have some operational readiness discussion with Rick Vincent, who was formerly with NURD, who's deep into their program. And of course, the tour, which is going to be awesome. I know Bill's going to join us for the second day. Aaron, you are more than welcome as well to come to any portion of the board retreat, Viking skee ball on day one.
Skee ball?
Viking skee ball. I did not come up with the term. It's you'll build a catapult, building momentum,
Okay.
and you try and get bean bags either onto a rug. You're not really competitive. If you're really competitive, you try and get it into a bucket.
Viking skee ball,
And the score to beat is 134,
set by.
our chief operators team.
We're going to have hats with big horns on.
That's day one.
So any board member that would like to practice before this event, just let me know. 130, eh?
134.
134.
No practice allowed. Our team didn't get practice.
We won't tell anybody.
Just show up and try.
Let's,
Okay.
So we are, Aaron, we are, the even up teams.
She looks like she's really wants.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Okay, moving right into unfinished business. Communications plan for the base charge.
Open up.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Like a TED talk.
Sorry?
Like a TED talk.
Should I just walk out into? So building on the discussion that we've had in previous meetings, we wanted to present a communications plan around the base charge change. I'm going to apologize in advance because that's really hard to say. I'm going to mess it up at least 5 times. Before we jump into the presentation itself, there are a few things I'd like to point out heading into the slides. So one is overall, we have good messaging around this for customers. There's going to be a decrease for roughly 97% of our customers. So that's going to be one of the key takeaways you'll see kind of peppered throughout the presentation. In addition, this change will affect different customer classes in different ways. So for residential customers, they're going to see an immediate decrease in their base charge. And for commercial customers, they're going to have sort of a unique base charge as we phase this in. And we'll explain that over time in the slides. And finally, as you all are aware, we are going to implement a rate increase July 1st, 2026. And this base charge will have some impact on that. So that's another piece of our messaging. You'll see in the presentation. Okay, so this is sort of the roadmap that led us to where we are today. We're presenting the communications plan. After today, we should be able to promote this to the public and customers beginning as soon as Q1 next year. I think you could flip this forward. So starting things off with what's easy here, we have basically for residential customers, as you can see, we've changed before it said volumetric base charge, now it's base charge. This is going to be the simplest thing that we communicate because essentially people's base charge is decreasing by a few cents. There's not a tremendous need to share a lot of information on the bill itself. That said, we will provide bill inserts multiple times to customers that walk them through the base charge change and then the benefits of that to a residential customer. For the commercial class, before we jump into the commercial bill itself, we wanted to take a few steps back here and kind of walk through what the phase-in process is going to look like for different commercial. So as we phase this in over, if you'll recall, 5 years, that you're ending in 2031 here, we're going to blend the current calculation for our base charge with the new calculation for our base charge. And that's essentially so people don't see a dramatic increase or decrease in their bill year over year. It's a slow trickle, if you will. In 2027, you can see we're looking here at the base charge per unit, which is essentially that ERU multiplier. And for commercial customers, it's going to range between $2.40 and $4. That $2.40 seems high. It is associated with groups that have a larger meter size, though, so it's not a terrible increase. And then as we roll in this plan over time, you can see the delta between the highest and lowest commercial base charge per unit sort of shrinks until you reach 2031, where you have $14.48. And that number will serve basically as the base charge for residential customers. And then again, that's sort of ERU multiplier for commercial class. So this slide is strictly for the board. This would probably confuse customers, but just to provide some background on the phase.
Just one detail. We had the option to phase in the ERUs and the base and the cost per unit. We didn't think it would be, since we're saying that you're paying based on volume, we did not consider phasing in the ERUs. So if you're 20 ERUs in 2031, you're 20 ERUs today. We felt that was going to be too complicated and confusing to explain. So we're just throttling the base charge down over the next 5 years. So what that means is all of your commercial customers are going to have a separate base charge per unit, per ERU, which is different from residential.
How complicated is that going to be to manage, like on the back end? Is it all just automated?
It'll be automated, essentially. Terry and Diana, who are on the line, can provide a formula. We can get a program that can a unique formula that applies to the commercial class.
Building on Ms. Hammer's question.
Sure.
So let's say I'm a commercial customer and my base charge is increasing by $240, right? And I want to know why. Is it so complicated? It would be hard to explain it to me?
I think the website's gonna do a good job explaining why it's increasing. So maybe we'll get there and see if you still have a question.
And relatively, you wouldn't see a huge jump in your base charge.
So
I
the
think
people
the
with, the-
biggest
it's a
jump
big
is-
side, they already have a high.
Yes,
Yeah, so
exactly.
it's
Right.
240 on top
Yeah.
of a bill that's probably in the thousands, right?
Well,
Base charge.
It's close to
It's
200
not,
something.
I don't think
yeah.
it's additional.
Yeah, no, it's not additional. So
So
like,
at the increase, this is just what it will be.
Per unit.
I think the
Yeah.
biggest increase you would see is something like 12% and that's kind of an outlier.
This is just, we're trying to explain, Mr. Hill, is that we're trying to get to the same, right now, we have various base charges based on meter size.
Mhm.
Ultimately, we have to get to a single base charge, and everybody's all over the place right now. We have to bring them from all over the place down to a single base charge over 5 years,
Mhm.
which means that, and we want to roll out the idea that we're charging based on volume, which is the ERU, your number of units, right? Based on your volume, 35,000 divided by 3,500, that's your units. What dial we're turning to get people from where they all are now, all over the place in 2027, which is what Matt's showing on that first line, is we're only turning the dial for a base charge per unit for our commercial customers. They're gonna start with their ERUs, only dial we're gonna turn is that base charge per unit. Until we get everybody down to 1448. That's the goal. And at the same time, we're slowly chipping away at the residential as well to get them down to 1448, but that's cents compared to what you're doing here.
Okay, now I understand the chart. Okay,
So-
I've got it
So
now.
the goal is that each year, the change in their bill is a fairly small amount.
Mhm.
Of
Yeah.
course.
That's right.
And
It increases over time, but it's not increasing all at once.
Yes, so it's kind of to mitigate any sort of dramatic shift in their bill. So, I mean, the good news is most of these customers wouldn't see a huge shift in their bill,
but
at least year to year.
in 2031, the base charge probably won't literally be 1448 per unit though, right? Because of rate adjustments.
So I believe they factor that in the calculation. And that would just be the straight base charge for residential, but the multiplier basically for commercial.
Right.
If we implement base charge as shown in the rate model, it'll be. around
That's what it would be in
1448.
5 years.
With an asterisk that's like subject to change. because-
see.
yeah.
Okay.
Aaron?
So I guess it's just incremental, it's done proportionally, right? Like it's kind of done, the change is kind of equal. So if somebody has a 10% change overall, it's like 2 and then another 2%, another 2%. Okay.
And Ms. Hammer, I think maybe too much information here, but to get back to your question, Diana's probably analyzed this 3,400
Yeah.
accounts 10 times over.
Mhm.
I think we won't have any issue getting it programmed into our
Okay.
ESC, which has how many different people.
They have like just an enormous amount of programmers.
Okay.
But that's something we do have to make sure is right and that we check and have to process. That's something we have to also support us with.
Can we just continue to beat this horse one more time?
Sure.
It's because I'm the slow kid in the class. What do we mean by the $4 to $240 per unit? What is that referring to?
Maybe back.
The per unit?
Base charge is calculated by number of units times a base charge.
Right, yeah.
So if you have 20 units, you're multiplying it by X number to get your base charge. What we're saying is that when we implement this in 2027, that charge per unit for our commercial class will range from $4 on the low end to $240 on the high end. Huge swing in charge per unit.
Oh,
We
okay.
can't just go right to 1448.
But the 240, correct me if I'm wrong, have less like units that they're multiplying by.
Correct.
Right, yeah. So like, they're already getting charged for a large meter.
Okay, so that little tag at the top, the 4 to 240 is the current base charge at that year, the year of 2027.
2027. The base, yeah. So like, if you pretend this 240 was a year earlier and they have a large meter, their meter charge could be it's like 250 or 260. So they might be 1 unit times 240 and they're not seeing a dramatic shift even though their base charge multiplier is high.
Okay, I've got it now. So, okay, so that's the,
If we were asked to make a rate table
yeah, I got it. I see
for
what you
all
mean.
the units we're charging, it would be thousands of numbers, because they're all
Right.
different.
Right.
To phase this in.
So that is the range of base charges in that year,
Base charge
Per unit.
per unit. Yeah.
per unit in that year.
Yep.
In that year. So if we're reducing that range till we converge at 1448. Slow kid got.
Continue on, we argued about it for at least a day. And a
Oh,
half.
yeah.
Okay, this makes sense. And if I called up and I wanted a little clarity on this, I'd either get it or not.
Yeah,
But
we'll
it-
touch on that a little bit, yeah.
But it seems like, I think the easy answer is we're phasing it in and then if my base charge is gonna go up. If I'm one of the 3%ers,
If you're one of the 3%, yeah, for sure.
probably a bad use of that word, by the way. But you're phasing it in, so you're lightening the impact on me.
Mhm.
Okay, I got it. This makes sense.
The good news is you've been underpaying for years.
I think this is what we've been trying to solve is just how there's a lot of just like difference in how much we're charging people per unit. And so we're coming off of our current base charge and mixing it with our new base charge to try and get us to the right convergent state.
Verging on fairness.
That's a new flyer title.
I wouldn't, don't go.
No,
there.
we can't say fair because that implies it wasn't fair before. We can't,
That's right.
yeah. Fairer, converging on fairer.
Fairness.
Fairness.
Verging on equitability.
Ability.
Okay, I've got it.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
of course. So, yeah. I'll just,
I don't know.
Oh.
No, I turned it off. I sabotaged you.
speaking of slow kid in class, okay. So for the commercial bill, I think it's helpful to kind of walk through the last slide because you can probably see why we decided to simplify the explanation here at the top right. So for this description, we kind of started off actually including the actual math. And we bounced the concept off a few people and it more or less confused them. So we walked it back and really simplified this description. So it basically says, when the change is happening, how, at a very high level, how it's calculated, and then how it's going to be phased in for customers. With the idea that they can then scan this QR code, go to AlexRenew.com and see the details if they want to do their own calculation. And I think that was some of the direction the board gave us last as well. So we tried to incorporate all of that.
I think this is the right level of detail. The version that was in our packet was different.
Yeah.
And I physically cringed because it was very wonky, but this is perfect.
Okay, good to hear.
Bottom right.
Oh, yeah. We also, because now commercial customers in particular are really in charge of their own cost savings through water savings tips, we want to make sure we're providing those in the bill itself. So we have some extra real estate here down at the bottom of the bill we can use to kind of provide water savings tips. And we could rotate those quarterly, monthly,
Question, why not have a similar box on the residential bill? The wording would be a bit different.
Yeah.
You've got, again, you got the real thing.
Yeah, we can.
Balanced and fair billing box. At a high level.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think with the space is there. So why not use it to?
Good idea.
What was the thinking behind the words balanced and fair? It's a little Fox Newsy.
That's what we were going for. You got it.
I mean, what's wrong with just saying fair bill?
We didn't want to, we were trying to avoid the word fair, but
It's in there.
balanced, I know.
Well, the only downside of only
It's-
saying fair
Fair.
is that it implies that it was not fair
Right,
before.
fairer billing.
To your fairer
But
point.
we balance that. Just we're balancing it for, it's equal charge for everybody eventually. In 2031, it's the same cost per kilo. That's the balance piece of it. You're paying for what you use.
I'm not gonna kick my heels in on that, just like, somebody's gonna see the connection.
That we took the thing back. Yeah.
We've also included, when talking with that, I think you all have a copy of the talking point.
We do.
So these could be distributed to the board, to city council, and then we would give some variation of this to customer service as well. To your point earlier, if somebody calls in and they want to talk to a customer service rep, we've already thought about this. So we have a process in place when somebody calls in to ask about winter quarter average, where they're immediately escalated to a supervisor or manager. It's more likely to answer that question well. So we will follow the same process for anybody that has a question about their base charge change.
The only question about the talking points was the very last one, which is about how we're gonna try to mitigate the impacts by offering LEAP credits. Would that require a policy change for LEAP? Because right now, isn't it only for residential only?
That's a fair question. I think it would.
So we would need to discuss that before we start telling people they can get LEAP credits. I'm not necessarily against it, but we just need to talk
Yeah,
about
for
it.
sure.
Otherwise, this is really good.
Yeah, I thought it was very good.
Wording, suggest, I'll just give them to staff. We need to discuss them at this point. I would just think of when we use the word adjustment in a number of these documents, a rate adjustment, I think we just ought to say rate increase.
Okay.
I cringe when I see the word adjustment, because I know, what are they trying to hide from me?
Yeah.
Does sound like a euphemism.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is an increase.
Yeah.
The small print inside the dark blue box,
Yes.
it says ensures everyone is billed equally for the amount of water they use, wastewater they use. I know what we're trying to say, but could somebody interpret that to mean everybody gets billed the same amount? Wouldn't we say billed equally per gallon of wastewater generated? Per unit of
We
wastewater.
can play with the phrasing.
No, I want to hear from much more talented wordsmiths on the board than me. What do you think? Because it just sounds like, everybody's going to get the same.
Right.
I've got circled on my chart as well, that equally is.
I think per gallon is simple
Per gallon.
for people to understand, because that's what it is. We're just using a unit that's a large number of gallons, but
Yeah, it breaks down to per gallon. Everybody okay with it?
they got balanced and fair even bigger on this one.
Message across.
I mean, I still struggle with what is balance telling us that fair is not telling us? Are we just using synonyms here?
Cut straight to the chase.
But I understand.
We're putting on feel-good words, so.
Yeah, it just,
That's as
just
far as we go.
soften it
Oh,
up.
balanced and fair, who can be against the Now, it must be unbalanced.
It is.
I think it also would help a couple places. It uses the word
Unbalanced,
tool. And I think if it's software, and I think people would understand.
Sure.
New software allows us to do stuff. And would be, oh, yeah, okay.
Okay.
I got a question. The last paragraph, we said the charge will be lower and more accurate base charge. And I understand that's true, but it seems like we're into the same issue as saying it's fair. Well, it wasn't fair before. It wasn't accurate before.
The true statement,
It is.
whether or not we want to take that on. The truth, it is true, you know.
You could say more balanced.
Or more use-based charge.
Or what?
Use-based charge.
That's good.
Sure. So this would accompany the talking points to city council. It could also be available for really any customers or members of the public. Very high level, again, just kind of when, where, who, what, how. And then the link would take you to the same page if you want a more in-depth breakdown of how your charge may change over time. Yeah, I need to click the link. Okay, so this is the page I've been referring to. Some of the information in here you have seen sort of repeated through some of the communications materials we handed out. But this does take it a few notches further. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see we give a pretty in-depth description here of what the proposed charges are, and then a chart to kind of walk through some examples of how they would affect different base charges for different customers when this is rolled out.
I have one comment on that.
Sure.
So we've switched from ERUs to units, which I think is good generally, but in certain contexts, I think it is confusing when it's like presented next to a apartment building, which is also composed of units.
Yep.
So like number of units next to like apartment buildings makes me think there's 10 apartments in the
Sure.
small apartment building and 50 apartments in the
that's a
large
good-
apartment building. So you might want to think about how that is worded.
Yeah,
Could we
could
change the
probably-
word to dwelling or something like that? Would that, because even that leads you to believe it's based on number of dwelling units inside an apartment building.
Even if you put maybe number of wastewater units or something instead of just units, just in
Just for
context
this.
where it could be confusing,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
um,
It's a valid point.
Dwelling's a good word.
I don't think you need to change apartment building. I think you need to change units.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hashtag.
You want to say dwelling equivalents?
We just go back to ERU. No, just.
No,
No,
we've gone
no,
this far.
just
no.
put like wastewater units
That's a joke.
or
That's a joke.
something. Yeah, I'm like, no, but it's not dwelling. It's not dwelling.
No, I think it's a really good point.
Did I confuse everyone?
35.
Okay.
The number divided by the other number. And we're just trying not to say ERUs, but I agree. It's confusing.
Okay.
You scroll down a little bit more. Okay, so right here. So this is sort of where we provide the math. So it's both a written description and then we actually show examples of the math. It also breaks it down by residential customer and commercial customer in case a residential customer makes their way to this page. Any comments or questions? And then if you scroll down a little further, we start discussing how the base charge change will affect the rate adjustment or rate increase, to your point. Scroll down. You'll see this sort of repeated on the next bill insert slide as well, but we're using this chart as a way to demonstrate how the base charge change will impact rate. And maybe this is a fair place where sometimes it is an adjustment because it does go down and up for some people, but how it affects either their rate increase, basically. We did bounce this chart off of folks that were not familiar with any of our rates or our customer service practices. And most people seem like they were able to understand this.
Even I got it.
We were careful with some of the charts.
I got it. That's what I get.
Well, after a while, you get too close to the subject matter.
Right. You need a normal person to look at it for you.
Exactly. Okay. Any questions or comments about the website? It's up live if anybody wants to go. Yeah, there's a little one. Okay, so again, kind of talked about only impacts about 3% of commercial customers, and then our approach to phasing it in. We keep these areas to contact us if you have any questions.
We'll soften language around LEAP and say something like works to offer payment assistance, and then next board meeting, we'll bring a draft,
Okay.
a revised payment assistance policy back to the board in January.
You say this is up live now.
This is online.
Have you had any feedback yet?
Oh, we haven't, it's not really linked to anything.
It's secret, but live.
Okay.
I mean, you all can find it by following that link, but it's not really linked.
It's
Okay. So the flyer that we showed previously, that was the high level explanation of the rate charge change would essentially incorporate your comments, serve as one side of a billing cert where we're explaining this rate charge change. The other side, we would like to use to explain how that rate charge change will impact a customer's rate increase on July 1st, 2026. So that's sort of the difference in this messaging. You can see, we even phrased it in a way that says on the opposite side of this insert. For residential customers, it's the same across the board. They're going to see a 3% increase instead of a 5.7% increase. So we tried to make this as simple as possible. Good news for residential customers. You were going to see 5.7% increase. Now you're 6. We did test this on some peers. It seemed like everybody got the gist of it pretty quickly.
I think if you find a way to lead with a 5.7 to 3 early on and playing this out, a lot of people will just kind of accept and not ask a whole lot more questions going forward, because in their mind, it's the right direction.
Maybe we put that in the blue box on the right side of the bill. Maybe that messaging's up there. Think about that.
And then this would be
Maybe, sorry,
go ahead.
couldn't you go back, Mr. Jinks? Maybe, Matt, maybe this is all that goes in the bill insert. We don't have to go through the balance and fair billing on the other side and have to explain it in a million different ways. Then go to a link if they want to learn more.
Sure.
That's it,
For residential customers or for both?
residential.
I mean, I think that's fair. I don't think most residential customers, if anything, they would be happy. There's
Precisely the reason to use it.
For commercial customers, this is the same description on the website that we showed, and then again, the same chart. Just an easy way to illustrate the changes that will impact different customers. Again, on the other side of the insert, provide sort of that high level overview of the base charge change itself.
So in the red disclaimer down there, what the chart is showing is the average adjustment, right? Like the average medical customer will have a 14% decrease, right? Like they're not examples, they're averages.
It's the average over the 328 commercial customers that we use as
Right.
our sample.
So instead of saying that these are examples, I would say these are averages.
Okay.
And that your rate adjustment will differ based on your usage. If that's correct,
It is
then,
correct.
okay, then yeah, I think that's what it should say.
Okay, so for the 3% of commercial accounts that we know are going to be impacted negatively, we want to reach out to that group by phone. We can, if we don't have their phone number, by email, and set up virtual meetings that would take place between March and May. Where we can basically provide a presentation, answer any questions, provide materials to help them lower their bills on their own. We'd have staff available to assist with any questions or billing estimates. We could even reach out after the meetings. We're not doing billing estimates over the phone. And then for anybody that's unable to attend, we also want to create sort of a shortish video that explains the structure change itself and then offers resources to. We know some of them might have busy schedules. They can't.
Any reason that it's Ms. Fee up there giving the presentation?
She's going to give all of the.
We're getting lazy looking for pictures.
Just kidding.
Okay, because I know you all love matrices. To recap really quickly here. Logistics recap on how we're communicating to each audience here. As far as meetings go for residential customers, well, we have the public hearing, and then Mr. Hill also goes to the Alexandria Federation of Civic Associations each month, so we can provide some flyers for you. For commercial customers, it would be those two same meetings, and then we'll also do the targeted virtual meetings. And if we can't get a hold of somebody, we'll try to call them as well. For nonprofits, they can attend the public meeting and also the targeted meetings. City council and staff, we will provide briefings if they request one after we provide the talking points and flyer. For print, again, the informational flyer will go through, it'll be available for residential and commercial customers, nonprofits, and then we'll provide that and talking points to city council. For mail, we have multiple bill inserts. You'll see them in the next slide, as well as those bill messages. For commercial customers, we'll have those targeted bill inserts that have a bit more detail on them. The custom bill messaging that provides a high-level overview. And we can provide certified letters to the groups, especially that are impacted negatively. And then as far as digital communications go for regular customers, we'll put a message on the portal. We'll send it via email, news release, AlexRenew.com, social media, and then we'll even put some ads. And for commercial customers, again, the same general thing, portal messages, targeted emails, and then everything else is going to mirror that residential campaign. For nonprofits, they'll likely see our news releases, AlexRenew.com, social media, Google Ads, target all those groups. And then for city council, they'll likely as well see the news releases after they receive the talking points and flyer, of course, and we'll email them. And then this outlines, this is a timeline of how those communications will play out. So here's Mr. Hill's monthly meetings with the Alexandria Federation of Civic Associations. We'll set those targeted meetings between March and May. The public meetings follow our normal cadence of board meetings, the public hearing. For print, we'll provide the city council the talking points and the informational flyer in January, and then that flyer will be available. We can post online and in the lobby. As far as mail goes, we'll have a insert ready for February, and then we'll have a follow-up in April, and we'll head of the public hearing, and then we'll send one when the rate goes into effect in July. That bill messaging, it can start honestly, as soon as March probably, but maybe April, we have a custom box where we describe, especially the commercial customers, at a high level, their impact. Digitally, we'll start in March, go through the public hearing into the rate increase. And then we have emails and news releases going in March and May. Any questions around any of the timing of that?
Let's watch the timing. Just thinking of the prior chart, and that is the city school system. If you've got a notice somewhere here talked about some of they were maybe in some of the higher end of changes, probably figuring out from the data, getting all the school, what's the school, it's gonna hit the school system.
Yeah.
And then meeting probably with the school's chief financial officer to walk through it. That's probably the best way. If I had to guess, any entity who just, no, if they're hit more, it's an elected public body. Money's tight. And so the degree of which that we sit down with their staff and talk it through. But I'm assuming from the basis of what was in our materials that schools were listed as some of the ones at the higher end. They go
I
down?
think schools are going down
Good. Well then,
from what we looked at. I know.
either way, it's just, it's belt and suspenders, but you may have to make sure, and if it's going up significantly, or some of it's going up significantly, then it's sitting down in the school staff. Be in our best interest.
Yeah, on average, Mr. Jenkins, school is going down by 1.5%, but we will check to see if there's increases, we'll reach out to them directly when it's there.
Nice.
Sure.
The good news for residential customers is a 3% increase after years of 5% and 6% increases. What can they expect in the following year? We know what that will be, right?
I don't
We
know.
haven't set rates yet.
Yeah, I don't
but it's
think
gonna
we-
be around 3% per year.
You
They
think?
still, they see a reduction year in, year out.
So a 2% differential,
I think the last year
3%
we rolled them up to
differential
what,
for the next
4%?
5 years then?
So it's like 3.3, 3.7, 3.4, and then we rolled them up to like 4% the last year. Something along those lines.
So during the phase-in period, there's a nice comfortable 3% increase for 4 to 5 years. And then we'll get back to the usual 5% increase that I think we need to finance all this good work. Right?
It's done.
Debt service is debt service.
Let's move forward.
Facebook,
Hoping it's done.
financing.
But we looked at it over the 5-year period. And we made a decision this year to keep it at 3% for year one. So the messaging all works, but by year 4 or 5, I'm sorry, it was up to like 4%.
3%'s a better number when you're launching this.
Because you know that question is going to come up.
5.7.
Sure, yeah.
Be nice.
We should add that to the talking point.
Yeah, I'd add it to talk and say over the 5-year period, till we get to the total end of the phase in. Compared to whatever the bill increases are, there's about a 10 or 12% benefit. I mean, it accumulates to that.
Makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
I'm wondering,
We also might not want to advertise we're doing rate increases year over year for the foreseeable future.
no, I
That
suspect,
includes it.
I suspect this will go rather smoothly.
Very, very well done. Very, very thoughtful presentation.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the nutrient reduction project update. Mr. Carl.
Well, Ms. Clapion gets her mic on, just, we wanted to come to the board in December. we do expect to bring a contract to the board in January for approval on the progressive design build project. That is the nutrient reduction project. Thought it was a good time to walk through where we're at on that program. And Ms. Glavion's going to walk through from some of the slides you've seen before to where we're at today.
Right. You stole my thunder, but thanks for the intro. Good evening, everybody. I guess we'll go ahead and get into it. So talk a little bit about the project background, some of the drivers for the project, as well as an overview of what's actually in the project, and then a review and an update of the procurement process that we chose for this project and where we are in that process. So just to recap, this is one of our 4 phase forward projects. So most of the projects on this slide, including the biosolids, the headworks renewal, and the process optimization projects, are all either in design or construction. And so now we're heading into the nutrient reduction project. Even though it's the last one to start, it's been on our mind for a while, starting back in 2011 when the city first identified its need for additional capacity, as well as more recent studies that we completed in 2020 that indicated that we needed to upgrade our filters and our tertiary settling tanks. So I think you guys have all seen this slide before as well. This summarizes what our current nutrient limits are. These are set by what we can introduce into the Chesapeake Bay. They're fixed, they cannot be changed. So as our flows go up, we still got to meet these same overall limits, and you'll kind of see why this comes into play in a couple of slides. Also, as far as our capacity, we know that is set by our current service agreements. It's based on flow. So 60% of our capacity right now is going to the county and 40% is going to the city. That translates to 32.4 MGD going to Fairfax and 21.6 going to the city. So with that city request for additional capacity, you can see what our flows have been doing over the past 10 years. And although the city flows shown here in blue and the county flows shown here in gray don't equate to anywhere near what our overall limit is, you can see that over the past 10 years, the city has been bumping up against its capacity limit. And how this would potentially affect our overall permit. Again, our load limits are not going to change for the Chesapeake Bay. So as flows go from 54 to 58, we've got to treat to a lower percentage so that our concentration going out the back end still keeps us below that cap. I alluded to this before, but we've been talking about the capacity increase since 2011, when this was first brought up by the city. There's been several master plans and task orders that have happened over the years to take a look at this and try to figure out how to manage it. But once the CSO law went into effect in 2017, the focus in the city shifted towards dealing with AlexRenew. So kind of these talks took a back seat, although there was still work going on in the background. For example, the city upgraded their sewer master plan. And so now that AlexRenew is kind of coming to a conclusion, we've already got to make updates to our tertiary systems. We know we've got to address this capacity question. We thought it was a good time to revisit this conversation. So as far as what's in the actual project itself, you guys have also seen components of this as well. So we've got the tertiary and filter upgrades themselves, as well as an expansion to account for the additional 4 MGD. So what does this look like in space? We've got our existing tertiary filters shown here to the north of the slide in green, as well as our settling tanks in magenta. So those are that's the process that we need to upgrade right now as far as it's getting to the end of its useful life. We need to replace equipment. We've got structural repairs to do. We need to change out our filter media to ensure that we continue to get the treatment performance that we have now. And then as far as the 4 MGD expansion, we're potentially looking at adding 6 new filters to meet that nutrient treatment requirement, as well as doing some changes to our existing biological reactor basins to help with the night in that area of the plant as well. So kind of what are we thinking with regard to this project? So we are still in the concept level with regard to figuring out a solution to this problem. Right now, our current filters are designed to treat solids and to do phosphorus removal. They're not designed to do denitrification. So in order to meet the additional loading requirements and the treatment requirements brought on by the additional flows, we're looking at converting our existing filters to night filters
and potentially building up to 6 new filters to support this effort as well, along with associated infrastructure, which includes the new piping gallery kind of shown here in yellow. So again, this is conceptual. We don't know where we'll get to at the end of design. This is the most conservative approach, and this is the approach that we put on the street when we put the solicitation out for the design builders to take a look at. But obviously, going through negotiations and going through different meetings, there might be other ways to help us achieve what we want to do without doing 6 tanks. So for example, maybe we could do some kind of supplemental densification, get better treatment in other areas of the plant that would reduce or eliminate the amount of new filters that we would need to put in under this project. Only time will tell as we move further into design. All right, so what are some of the synergies of combining the Form GD expansion with the already planned filter and TST upgrades? Well, we benefit from cost savings, right? We're looking at one project, one contractor, one MOB, DMOB. So we're saving costs there. We've also got minimizing our risk to permit because we can do all of the process shutdowns under one contract instead of having multiple contracts, spreading this out over a longer time period, and then having to do additional coordination to get these shutdowns coordinated. So we're minimizing our permit risk there as well. We've also got less procurements to get through. We can do this under one procurement versus going out for multiple procurements for parts of the project. And then we've got a single point of responsibility. So since as a design builder, they're responsible for the design and the construction of the facility, which is a benefit to AlexRenew. So I think all of us have seen this slide before as well. It talks about the different ways that we can procure things here at AlexRenew. So we've got the traditional design bid build to your left side of the screen, and then you've got more collaborative delivery as you move across the page. So we're using all of these right now. So design bid build, we're using that for our Centrate pretreatment project. For the CMAR, construction manager at risk, we're doing that for solids and PPSU. And then for River Renew, we're using the fixed price design build. So this project, the nutrient reduction project, would be the first one that we're using the progressive design build. It shares some similarities with CMAR. So for example, we're going to issue amendments to the contract. So we're able to bring the contractor on early in the process, as well as get some collaboration with the designer. The difference between the CMAR model and the progressive model are there is no actual contractual relationship between the designer and the contractor, even though they're brought on early in the process. Under the progressive model, we have one contract with the contractor, but that contractor actually has a contract with the designer. So they're beholden to work together to make the project happen.
So why PDV?
Sorry?
Why PDV, not fixed price design?
Now we're going to get into that. So we came to you last fall and asked for permission to start using this delivery method because we thought it would bring a lot of benefits to AlexRenew, depending on what the project was. So that was approved. So just kind of some of the overall benefits of the progressive is contractor collaboration early in the process, which I touched on, a single point of accountability, which I touched on, single procurement process. We're also able to accelerate the schedule. We've got the benefit of seeing how they're costing the job through open book pricing. And then we can actually execute different phases of the contract early. So if there's things that we want to construct early that don't require a lot of design or minimal design, we can get those done early instead of waiting for the complete design to be finished. So specifically for this project, Musa, so we are able to, instead of just doing a low bid situation, we are able to bring in other factors. So we are able to pre-qualify people. I'll kind of get into that in the next slide, but we're able to select based on experience and not just cost. Again, early contractor involvement in the process. We talked about some of the upgrades advancing. So in this case, we have upgrades that we want to do to our tertiary settling tanks that we can do early while the filter design work is happening. So that kind of shortens our schedule. And then the single point of ownership, again, for this project. And then one thing that's a little bit more intangible is the collaborative environment that this model provides. So we get to get in with the designer and the contractor early in the process. We get to develop those relationships. We get to develop that trust. We get to get people to feel ownership for the project, which supports collaboration and leads to synergies around our safety culture and our overall project goals.
But you get the same thing in design build.
So yes, you can achieve all of that through a fixed price model, but I guess if you go back, the difference, I guess, Dr. Wong, of where we are in this job is we have a concept done. We did a model. We ran a model through the plant and we came up with denitrification filters and looking at turning some other dials with densification and things to be able not to have to build all those filters. We have no design, right? We did not advance the design to 30% in-house. We did not ask one of our consultants to advance the design in-house. So given that we're at such an early phase, we do know based on some studies what needs to be improved in the tertiary. We felt it was more advantageous to enter into a progressive model, be able to let the design get advanced by the progressive design build team while they take care of the tertiary work. The difference of why not fixed price is we don't have any design advance. We don't have a 30% tender design. We don't have anything for them to base their price on. So we would have had to wait another year to advance the concept, price it out, and then we weren't sure if our concept that we were putting forth was what we really wanted for the plant. So we wanted to get we used the procurement period to get some different ideas on what we wanted to do with driving down TN as opposed to just T-night filters. And now what we want to do is enter into a contract with a designer, let them study it a bit more and try and get us the best cost for what we need to build, given that we have all this other work going on.
So it's a choice or it is critical, you cannot wait. You just have to put the concept out.
The tertiary filters,
We prefer not to wait because we needed to do this work for a while and
Yes.
Renew kind of took over and there was nowhere to stage to do some of this work. So we were trying to manage our risk with making sure that we can continue to treat at the level required instead of delaying it for another year.
the baseline project we wanted to get.
It's an urgency, basically. Just give them the concept, tell them, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically the way we're looking at this is the tertiary job is pretty straightforward. They can advance that design package pretty quick, get us a price while we work on the longer term 4MGD expansion piece. Because we do want to study that. We have not studied that as, in depth. We know we've done the modeling. We know we can get D-night filters. We made that our indicative design, put the job out, and we're open to ideas. And we're going to enter into a design builder exploring some of those more complementary strategies to be able to not have to build all that infrastructure. But we don't have a big team here doing a 30% design for us to go fixed price. That's the major difference.
Yeah, thanks, Justin.
And is it correct that with the progressive design build that one, you do it in, as you're just talking about, you do it in phases. When you get to the construction phase, you negotiate the price. And if you can't agree, you have an off ramp to say, put it aside and figure out another method of procuring, right?
Yes, unfortunately, this is the first job it's the first job we've had where we haven't had a designer already. And a consent order or a law where we were able to use the off ramp. And
So I just jumped to this slide that talks about the phases. We can go back to the org structure in a minute. So you've already kind of touched on this, but this kind of lays out how we see the project going. So right now, the dark blue is procurement. So we're still in the procurement. We did a two-step procurement process, which allowed us to pre-qualify. So we asked, interested parties to provide their qualifications. We were able to take a look at those and make sure they were qualified to do the work, and then invited them to submit on a proposal on the RFP. So we're currently, we've preliminary selected a team, we're in negotiations. And so as Justin alluded to, we hope to come to an agreement with that team by January and come to you for approval for that contract. So once we get through that contract award, we will enter into the design phase, which is broken into 2 stages right now. So phase 1 is really focused on the preliminary aspects like vetting the model, doing some site work, doing some field investigations, making sure that we get the scope where we want it to be, kind of looking at some of these other alternatives. And then once we get to phase 1B, that's where the more detailed design happens, where we get the PER done. And then from there, we would move into, assuming everybody's happy with the price at the end of design, we would move into construction and then eventually operating. Now, if we get to the end of design and we're like, we're not happy with this price, we're not comfortable, we can take the off ramp. I mean, we could shelf the project, which we're probably not going to do because we need to get this work done, or we could take it to the open market to see if we could get better pricing on it. So this off ramp is a real option for us as we get further along in the process.
Do you have a schedule?
Sorry.
Do you have a schedule for that?
Yes, it's in here. So as far as like what the actual, like the team structure looks like, obviously AlexRenew is the owner, supported by the 3 entities shown here. So we would have a contract with the design builder who would be responsible for bringing construction and design to the project. But we'd also be supported by an owner's advisor and a construction manager, since we don't have a construction branch in-house. And this is also our first rodeo with progressive design. So we have an owner's advisor that's been through the process before that can make sure that we don't go into any missteps. So I guess I won't spend too much time on this slide. You guys can look at it at your leisure for reference, but it breaks down some of the specific tasks by phase, unless somebody wants me to go over this in detail.
No, I just want to see, because you're saying you did progressive design build because of criticality and schedule. I just want to see how much time we're going to be spending on this.
So what does this look like in space? So right now, again, the dark blue, we're in procurement. We're hoping to wrap this up, going through January. And then once we award, we would immediately enter into the design phase early next year. So we expect that to go for about a year before we move into more detailed design. At the same time, we're expecting to have some early work packages come out. So construction to begin in about a year or so. And that would be the tertiary settling tanks. We've identified that as one that can go. We're also looking at, are there other aspects of the project that can go early, but this is one that we know that can go pretty early. And then once we conclude the design phase 1B, we would move into the construction of the remainder of the improvements. So we're looking at finishing sometime in 2032, based on what we know now about the project. Yes.
Denitrification filters. Seems like this whole project hinges on that technology, if I'm understanding this correctly. How established is that technology?
It's very established in the industry. We've got other people in the surrounding area that are currently doing it. We don't need it for our current process to meet our current process needs. It's not how the plant was designed, but it is a technology that can get us to where we need to be. And since we were already upgrading these filters as part of this project, and we know that we're going to have to upgrade for city capacity in the future, instead of having to change the media out twice because it uses a slightly different media, we can just do it under one project.
This is a terribly nerdy question. How do those filters work? That's a pretty amazing process when you think about it.
Yeah, so there's I'm not a process person, but there's biology in the filter that helps us do the removal.
Okay, so there's it's a biological process within the filter. It's not a screen or anything simple like that.
No.
This is the nitrification, denitrification process, probably within a thin film or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so it builds up on the media. We also do some chemical addition to make sure that the bugs are happy and that they can do what they need to do as far as treatment, but it is a biological process.
And other utilities are using this technology at our scale, right?
Yes. Yes.
Probably greater than our scale, I'm sure.
Richmond doesn't.
That's good scale.
Well, they do it well.
They do it well.
Yeah.
So right now we're just using it for, solids removal, like I said earlier, and some phosphorus removal, but this would actually be a biological process. And the media is slightly different. So if we were just to do our original project, we have to change out all the media because that's at the end of its useful life. And then we'd have to come back in and swap it out again for denite media in the future. So it makes more sense to just do it all now while we're in there.
Maybe back to Dr. Wan's question too, again, this really shows the benefit of progressive in this model. We're able to bring on that one designer. They can advance the model, we can tweak the model, take our time tweaking the model while they finalize the design on those tertiary settling tanks and that's an equipment replacement project, knock that out while we're focused on the pink improvement, in the back end. That's not terribly schedule driven at that point. We've eliminated some of the risk around the city's capacity through a capacity sale agreement between the county and the city. So that project we can take a little more time and get it right. And I guess Mr. Hill, to your question, I think D-night filters, that's what we're showing. That's the worst case of what we want to build. We hope we hope that we can tweak the biological reactor basins with densification and hydrocyclones to be able to not have to build 6 new filters and then get all the D-night we need in the filters within the existing footprint of the plant. So they work. It's very straightforward process, but what we'd like to do is hopefully scale back on what we need to build for those 6 additional filters. That's the goal of the modeling effort with the design. Try and de-scope the project a bit. And leverage what we've got in the 6 VRBs we have currently through some process changes.
And that'll be taking up phosphorus as well.
No, phosphorus stays in tertiary.
Stays in
Phosphorus is in the green, in the tertiary settling tanks.
Got it.
They don't change. The filters, either way, we'll likely put D-night media in, whether we need it or not is a different story. So that's what we'll know after phase 1A is done.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and now to everyone's favorite cost. So I do have cost information on the next slide, but we've talked about this before. As you move through design, at the beginning, cost certainty is a little bit lower because you don't know what you don't know. And then as you move towards construction, that cost certainty gets better. And so this is what this slide is attempting to illustrate. So, we go anywhere from early concept all the way through construction, shown at the bottom of the chart. And then we've got cost variability, kind of around a baseline. Costs can go up, but they can also go down as you continue to refine scope on the project. So right now, we're talking about issuing the initial contract in January. So we're really at the tail end of that cost uncertainty. And so we're expecting to see the cost change over time as we move through to design and refine the scope. And so for reference, we've kind of looked at the overall project, the life cycle, what the different stages are and where different phases of this project might fall. So if you follow the flags across the top of the screen, you can see that as we get towards construction, we start to converge on what the actual true price of the project will be. That being said, our initial estimates right now, which are really kind of rough order of magnitude estimates, is about 190 million. And so that's broken out between owner support services as well as design and construction services. So some of the owner support services that I talked about before, as far as like the owner's advisor and the CM support, are shown here, as well as the design and construction. So starting with that light blue wedge of the owner's advisor, right now preliminary estimates are saying that cost is going to be about $6 million over the life of the project. The construction manager is going to be about 10.5 million. And then moving into actual design between phase 1A and 1B, we're looking at about 29.5. And then we've got some money allocated for that first work package, which is the TST improvements at 16 million. And then the balance of the project right now at 128 million. So again, this is our best guess based on the information that we have right now. Remember, we don't have any design drawings. We just have a concept, and we plan to work with the design builder to see if we can refine that further. And then, so where do we go from here? So again, I mentioned we are in negotiations right now, so we're hoping to wrap those up this month, and we'll come to you in January for approval of a contract. And then from there, we would go ahead and issue notice of award and then move directly into the phase 1A services for the preliminary design.
Can you remind me again, how many bidders you got for?
We got 3 design build
3.
teams.
Okay.
Questions? Yeah. All right, so now when we come to you in January, you won't be like, what is this project? Why are we doing it? You'll have a good refresher.
So I asked already my question.
When you look at the budget from last year and previous discussions, we had it broken up. Initially, there was a concept that the city would fund this out of their own, the foreign GD expense out of their funds. When you add those together, it's like 182. So we got initial estimate from the contractor, it changed our estimate by about $8 million at this phase. So we're at 190 for our budget going forward. And I think the important thing to note is that includes That's the 6 D-night filters. It's the indicative design that hopefully we don't necessarily have to build based on process improvements.
I could ask just a general question, but I want to bring the board into this discussion. Phase Forward has 4 rather large projects as part of it. If I can remember, it's nutrients, headworks, it's biosolids, and this. Now, Mr. Carl, process optimization. How does this particular aspect, the nutrient reduction, how does it compare to the others in terms of technological risk and also financial risk? Technological meaning, are we leaning on some technology that might be risky? It sounds like it's very established technology. Financial risk, price overruns, that sort of thing. How does this one compare to the other 3? In other words, which one of the 4 should we worry about? Or worry about more?
Yeah, I think the most straightforward, if I had to say the most straightforward project out of all of this is the Headworks renewal project.
Right.
We're replacing equipment in kind and adding some resiliency and redundancy in where it's needed. That followed by, they're all pretty straightforward. Nutrient reduction's pretty well known. Densification's pretty well known. Fairfax has IFAS in their BNR process. So I guess probably the biggest risk is biosolids.
Yeah.
And
So much.
why on biosolids it would be, we are going to have to rebuild building C. So it has to come down. It's just a lot more moving parts with biosolids. So the riskiest out of the 3 would be biosolids. But again, that's, we're keeping the gravity thickeners largely where they are. It's just going to be a challenge managing our process through all the construction is where the risk lies.
So not a technological risk.
Everything that we're doing, we are not the first or second organization doing any of this work. That's something that we made a cognizant decision of as staff that we don't want to be a guinea pig.
And we appreciate that.
UOC has been using drying for decades. Every wastewater, you look at wastewater entities in the region, there's using some sort of densification. There's D-night filters are very common, and Headworks renewal again is a very straightforward project. So from a technology standpoint, none of these are risky. We'll have more inherent risk of running a dryer for biosolids long-term due to the risk of fire, but there's ways to manage that. No different than running digester gas through compressors and then using that to mix your digesters. They're about equal to me and less risky, probably where we're going.
I'd expand on that. No disrespect. Talking about risk, financial risk, technological risk, how do these compare to Renew where we were 8 years ago?
Not even close from a risk standpoint. An underground project in the middle of Alexandria from a risk standpoint.
What could go wrong?
What has gone wrong?
That was the expression from our previous board member, Bruce Johnson.
I think that's a different risk level than.
Yeah. Okay.
Talking about risk, I'd add one more risk, and that's regulatory risk, where things may get ratcheted up or dealing with PFAS or, do any of these processes when we make these investments, then are we at risk for regulations changing, us having to make amendments or add additional process?
I think what we're doing with, all 3 of these projects is nutrient reduction. If you follow the trends right now, there's been feels like a snack type appetite to push wastewater even lower than where we are now, below 3 milligrams per liter for TN. So you already hear about that kind of happening in other areas where, people are looking at leaning on wastewater for the bay as opposed to having farms and stormwater get their act together. So there's already discussion around the potential for driving nutrients lower. So investigating this, we're going to be able to provide some resiliency there in the nutrient reduction project. For PFAS and biosolids, we know that's a risk. We can talk about that now, or this project is born because of that risk. We are consciously moving away from land application and reducing our volume by going to a pellet, by going to a thermal dryer and a dry product to reduce our risk in the market. And partnering with our Northern Virginia authorities and municipalities to look at alternatives to land application, as well as working with Reworld to potentially incinerate that product there and do waste to energy. So I think both can be looked at in a way that we're mitigating risk on nutrient side and biosolid side.
Good, thank you.
It just always a good practice when you put these documents together, just for the record, for the board, you can always list those risks, because if they materialize, you're gonna have to come for more money.
Yeah, so the risk, the biosolids
Yeah.
risk is, the nutrient risk is a little more amorphous, but the biosolids risk is real. We're gonna end up with a regulation this year, and it will have a limit in it. That limit might be 100. That limit could be 20. We're going to come to the board next month and give you an idea where we stand with respect to our concentration, but we hover around that 20 mark. Right now, the legislation that's being pushed is to match Maryland. And that's a sum of PFOA plus PFOS. And they're looking at a limit of 20. Our rolling average right now is 19.34. Between 20 and 50, our land application limit would be reduced to X tons per acre. Anything over 50 would have to be landfilled or taken elsewhere. Below 20, you'd be okay. That's the current legislation being introduced in Maryland, and there's a driver to push that regulation over to Virginia. So that risk on biosolids is real. We can't build that thing fast enough.
But in Maryland, if they don't change it, you practically, it's zero. You cannot do anything.
You have to deal with it too. Yeah.
So that's why they had
All
to
of us.
pull it.
Right.
Yeah.
But risk mitigation, I think we look at those two projects as trying to mitigate risk and supporting the city up, for growth in the future while maintaining Fairfax's waste allocation, load allocation.
Yep. Okay. How is when you say 20, is that measured every truckload sample taken, or is it an average over
Who are you
time?
talking to? What it is, it's a rolling average. We were just talking about this before. We're not sure that if you get a quarter where you are above, if you can go resample to drive your number lower. We haven't seen that.
So right now, there is no requirement to even do this type of sampling. So the frequency hasn't been established. So if it's quarterly, then what do you do if you go over 20 and that's the limit? Yeah. So are we stuck for the whole year with
For that quarter.
that quarter? Yeah.
We're not sure. It's a bit amorphous as well, right? But we do intend to come, to stress that risk on biosolids. Ms. Dinas will be presenting just the data of what we're seeing at the plant. And also we went out and sampled their SIUs and different points in their system to show you that, we're a primary residential background. She's going to walk through the data. And then we're going to have a discussion around thermal technologies and incineration from an expert with Vernon Caldwell that's supporting us.
Thank you. It was an excellent briefing. And we'll be ready next month. Next year. Okay, moving right on the final item. In this calendar year, for the Board of Directors, monthly report on tab 5. Mr. Carl, anything we'd like to point out?
It's page 3 and 4, the monthly report under strategic partnerships, and building on what Mr. Carl was just talking about with biosolids and PFAS. We're less than a month away from the 2026 session of the General Assembly commencing. We've been working on draft legislation with our state advocacy organization, VAMWA, and also with some very active environmental NGOs. And what we're trying to do is control some of our destiny here. And we have reached an agreement on a number of things on what we'd like to see in this legislation, and that would include sampling. So while we have been sampling for a year, a lot of our peer utilities have not, or at least have not been sharing those results. So we need to establish baseline. We need to know what we're dealing with in the state as far as on a quarterly basis. What are we seeing in biosolids? Are we seeing a lot of over 20 or over 50 or over 100? So it would require quarterly sampling. Right now it's drafted that DEQ would run that program of sampling, not individual utilities. It does not currently have a tiered limit or any kind of limit. It's more, let's establish the baseline, then we'll come back and decide once we know that what we need to do for making sure that things don't get land applied or are applied at a reduced rate. What Mr. Carl is talking about is that there are delegates who are already talking, they haven't pre-filed anything, but are talking about pre-filing legislation that does have some tiers or some limits. So as far as I know, the environmental communities NGOs we've been working with are still saying we want to make sure the numbers we pick are something that's defensible. Let's not just to try to match Maryland. But with Maryland moving forward with legislation that would in effect cause those biosolids to come across the border to us, there's going to be more of a push for us to match that, so we don't have that coming over here for land application. So we have to be prepared for it, and so we'll be working with VAMWA. We'll be looking for sponsors to introduce this and hopefully come up with a compromise this year to have the ability to get the lay of the land while we are then looking at alternatives to land application of biosolids. You attended the VAMWA board meeting last week. Anything you want to add? It would be good if EPA would move forward with finalizing their draft risk assessment, because then they'd have to take that and revise the Part 503 rec, and then we would have national standards, which is what we need, instead of every state trying to go at this on their own and potentially have different requirements state by state. So this will be one that we'll keep you updated on monthly, and hopefully we'll end up with something that we can live with while we're moving towards alternatives. Any questions on that before? You're all, I think, remember the apprenticeship requirement bill that was under the Public Procurement Act that would have required for all public projects that there be 8% labor hours done by apprentices. We opposed that because it would have limited our contractor pool. It was infeasible. There were some off ramps that weren't workable at all to potentially increase project cost schedule. It passed the General Assembly, but was vetoed by the governor. We have a new governor, so we'll be watching for this to be introduced and see where that goes. Then the last one right now that we have on our list for approving, because we have the General Assembly deadline coming up in July, so we'll be providing updates to the General Assembly on that project.
Any questions, other questions on the monthly report?
A quick update on delinquencies and leak.
Page 6, look at status of delinquencies. The total amount owed to AlexRenew decreased by $11,000 month over month. The number of delinquent accounts increased by 60. 31 of those were actually one customer. And basically customer service reached out to their bill sales. What you do about nothing. But we did increase by about 29 accounts. Most of those we looked at were either new customers or folks their bill by a couple of days. Sometimes that happens. We've got their billing cycle. We now have 76% of our total delinquent amount is represented by payment plans. So that's sort of important because it does, we have so many people on payment plans. It's going to sort of slowly bring in the funds that we're after. And then also, we don't, between weather being an issue, holidays and payment plans, we don't have a ton of folks to target with disconnections. So that kind of limits one of our sort of how we can turn on in that number. So just kind of presents a challenge for lowering that number over time. If we jump over to the LEAP dashboard, we did have another pretty strong month. We distributed 16 customers, $11,000, all things considered, considering that pool is getting smaller and smaller. That's pretty good amount to distribute month over month. If you go to the next slide, not much new here. So again, this is just for the month of November. The balances were not quite as high as they were last month. And you can see the average customer had 84% of their bill covered with their distribution. Nothing stood out too much this month.
Questions about LEAP?
All looks good.
Does look good. Mr. Robertson, just on delinquent accounts and arrearage. Eventually, we're going to hit a stable state, right? The arrearages will never go to zero. Delinquencies will never go to zero.
Yes.
What do you think the stable state is?
It's a good question. So we've talked about this kind of with the customer service team. So previously, before COVID, before payment plans, it fluctuated between about $100,000 and $200,000, which is like the bottom. The difference now is that we've introduced really flexible payment plans as an option, as well as we're still kind of digging out of COVID. So they're kind of variables we haven't seen in the past, so it's hard to say what the new bottom. I think just COVID alone would have probably shifted the new higher. And then you factor in that we're having a number of customers on payment plans, and some of those customers, use a payment plan at least once a year. You're looking at
350, 400.
Yeah, if I was going to guess, I'd say at least doubles.
Feeling
The delinquent amount.
It'd be likely 350 to 400.
Yeah, that would be my guess too.
And then you have our rates are much higher.
Our rates are higher.
Pre-COVID.
Factor in inflation, just COVID in general. So a lot of variables at play. I doubt it's ever going to get back to it.
I just want everyone to get used to the fact that it won't go to zero.
Yeah, no, and I think, I don't know if I shared this last time or not, but I shared an article with Mr. Carl that I found, and it just said that over the last year, there's the industry, it was like electric and gas utilities, I think, had seen a 10% increase in their delinquent amount. So the fact that we're still seeing a decrease, I think, speaks to the job that our customer service team does.
Revenue dashboard, just really quick. Page 3, we're nearly 90% complete. You'll see the pump station. When we do a tour, bottom right page, inside of the page though, the brickwork is going up on the facade. So you're getting close to the end of the job when you see brickwork on the facade. Really exciting for us. Flip over to the last page. You'll see our deep breaker system. That is at factory testing in India. So that is getting put on a ship right now. It's one of the major last pieces of equipment we need for the system to protect and clean our pumps. The screen's already installed. This is the system that cleans the deep shaft immediately upstream of our pump station, rides down on a rail, cleans the screen, picks up any muck at the bottom of the shaft, and we move on to the next storm. So our team went out, one team member went out to witness the factory testing in India. And again, it's on its way here. Likely be when we go out for a visit, it'll likely be getting installed at that point. is not necessary for operation. We can still run the system without it. Muck out the screens. Throw a person on a harness and throw them down there.
That's the terror from this. It's coming from India, terror.
Yeah, yeah. Is there a tariff? We're not getting hit with it. So if there is, we're not aware of a change for a tariff on this. I think they bought the equipment a long time ago.
Yeah.
That PO was issued a long time ago. I don't know. We have not gotten a change for a tariff. Nobody gets here.
I think so.
Anything on phase forward you want to mention?
No real update there. It's just it's really focused on getting the digester installed for the whole project.
Anything else you want to cover? Last board meeting of the year.
Talk about PFAS for the rest of the year.
We could do that. Board members, any topics? Last meeting of the year? Okay, since it is the last meeting of the year, I want to just, if you'll allow me, just spend 2 minutes of reflection on what was an extraordinary year for AlexRenew. Hats off to all the members of the AlexRenew team. If all you did was River Renew, delivered Post Run and Pendleton, pump station, all the things you did, that would have been enough. That would have been an A grade, right? But then I think phase forward, the rate equitability, right? And a much stronger organization than we've ever had. And frankly, a stronger board than we've ever had before. So it's been a great year. And I think 26 is going to be an even better year because this is the year that it's done. So hats off to AlexRenew. Just a great, great year. And, I hope you all can enjoy a little bit of a holiday break. I hope. And so we go into 26 strong. A very good year. Members of the board, you want to say a word at all?
Mr. Chair, thank you for your leadership. We wouldn't be here without that.
With a board like this, it's an easy job. With a board like this, staff like that, you could put anybody in this seat and it's going to look good. So I appreciate it.
What you said, great board. But this stuff just, even if I'm tired, I'm depressed with the meeting, coming here, I just like it because I know I'm going to hear good stuff here. Thank you very much. Honestly, they do an excellent job.
Excellent team.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent team.
Good team.
Everybody have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you.
And let's have a motion to adjourn. Someone, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I wasn't going to say 8++++. 4 plus, 5 plus.
Right.
Great,
Right.